When Michael Carter's parents died in a tragic accident, he thought their story had ended. But when he discovers that their fortune has mysteriously vanished and that they were preparing to expose a powerful conspiracy in court, everything changes. His uncle, William Carter, a ruthless businessman, seems to be at the center of it all. But as Michael digs deeper, he realizes this isn't just about money, it's about secrets that were never meant to be uncovered. With a missing witness, a ledger of crimes, and dangerous enemies closing in, Michael must decide: fight for justice or risk becoming the next victim. How far would you go to uncover the truth? Stay until the very end to see how this story unfolds. And before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and drop a comment letting us know where in the world you're watching from. Michael Carter had never stepped foot inside a courtroom before, but today he had no choice. Sitting across from him at the hearing was his uncle, William Carter, a well-dressed businessman with a calm, almost amused expression. The judge cleared her throat. "Mr. Carter, according to these documents, your parents left behind a significant estate. However, the assets seem to have disappeared. Do you have any explanation?" Michael clenched his fists. "I don't, Your Honor. But I know my uncle does." William gave a small chuckle. "Michael, I understand that losing your parents was difficult, but let's not make baseless accusations. Everything was handled legally." Michael wanted to scream. His parents' death in a car crash had been devastating, but discovering that their entire fortune, millions of dollars, had vanished was even worse. According to the court records, the inheritance had been transferred before their deaths. The only person who could have done that? William. But where was the proof? The court hearing ended with no resolution. As Michael stormed out, his best friend, Sam Turner, caught up to him. "This isn't over," Michael muttered. "I know he took everything." Sam hesitated. "There's something you should see." He handed Michael an old leather-bound notebook. "Your mom's journal. My dad found it in our attic. He used to work for your parents, remember?" Michael's heart pounded as he flipped through the pages. One sentence stood out: "If something happens to us, the answer is under the floor." Michael looked up. The house. That night, Michael drove to his old family home, now abandoned. Memories of his childhood flashed through his mind. He walked through the dusty halls until he reached the living room. His mother's words echoed in his head. Under the floor. He dropped to his knees and knocked against the wooden panels. One section sounded hollow. Using a crowbar, he pried it open. Inside, there was an old metal box. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a flash drive and a single note: "Do not trust anyone." Before he could process what he had found, the front door slammed open. Michael spun around. A dark figure stood in the doorway. "You should have stayed out of this," the voice growled. Michael grabbed the box and bolted. He didn't know who was after him. All he knew was that his parents had left him a message, one that could change everything. But was he ready for the truth? Michael's heart pounded as he sprinted through the darkened house, gripping the metal box like a lifeline. The shadowy figure lunged after him, but Michael was fast. Years of high school track paid off as he reached the back door, shoved it open, and disappeared into the night. The cold air burned his lungs as he ran toward his car. He yanked the door open, threw himself inside, and locked it. His hands fumbled to start the engine, adrenaline making them shake. The shadowy figure reached the driveway just as Michael's tires screeched against the pavement. Whoever it was, they weren't chasing him on foot. That meant they either had backup or they thought he'd come back. Neither option was good. Michael sped through the quiet streets, gripping the steering wheel with one hand and holding the metal box with the other. His mind raced. His mother's journal had led him here, and inside the box, there was a flash drive and a warning. Do not trust anyone. He didn't have many people left to trust anyway. His first instinct was to go to Sam, but doubt gnawed at him. Sam had been acting strange, lately too eager to help, too quick to show up. And the fact that his father had found the journal at just the right time? It felt too convenient. Instead, Michael drove to the one person who had no reason to lie to him, Ashley Reed, an old classmate who now worked in cybersecurity. If anyone could crack whatever was inside this flash drive, it was her. Ashley lived in a small apartment above a coffee shop downtown. Michael knocked twice before she finally opened the door, wearing sweatpants and a hoodie. "Michael Carter," she said, raising an eyebrow. "Haven't seen you since high school. What do you want?" Michael held up the flash drive. "I need your help." Ashley studied him for a second before stepping aside. "Come in." Michael entered her apartment, still catching his breath. The place was cluttered with monitors, wires, and a half-eaten pizza on the desk. "Sit," she said, already booting up her computer. "This better not be a virus." Michael handed her the flash drive. "It belonged to my parents before they died." Ashley hesitated, then inserted it into her computer. The screen flickered, and a folder appeared. It was password protected. "Of course," she muttered. "Any guesses?" Michael thought for a moment. His parents would have used something meaningful. His mother's journal. The missing page. He typed in, "under the floor." The folder unlocked. Ashley clicked on the first file, a bank statement. Michael's stomach dropped as he scanned the numbers. Millions of dollars had been transferred out of his family's account one day before their car crash. The recipient? A shell company registered under one name, William Carter. Michael clenched his fists. "I knew it." Ashley opened another file. This one contained emails between his father and someone named Eleanor Davis. Michael had never heard that name before. Ashley skimmed the emails. "This woman was warning your dad about something." She clicked on the last email, dated one day before the accident. It read, "They know. Do not go to the court hearing tomorrow. It's a trap." Michael's pulse pounded. His parents had a court case scheduled the day after their deaths. He had never known why. Ashley leaned back. "Michael, I think your parents were murdered." Michael swallowed hard. He had always suspected it, but now he had proof. The real question was, who else knew? And how far would they go to keep it buried? Michael stared at the screen, his breath coming in short, shallow bursts. His parents' deaths weren't an accident. They had been murdered because of whatever they knew. Ashley sat back in her chair, arms crossed. "Okay, so your uncle stole your family's fortune, and your parents were warned not to go to court. The question is, what was the case about?" Michael rubbed his temples. "I don't know. My parents never told me about any legal issues. But if Eleanor Davis warned them, she must have known something." Ashley pulled up a quick search. "There's no Eleanor Davis in the local directory. But if she was involved in a court case, she might be in the records." Michael's stomach twisted. "The courthouse." Ashley nodded. "The archives should have records of any pending or past cases. But if this conspiracy runs deep, those files could be missing." Michael exhaled sharply. "Then I need to get to them before my uncle does." The next morning, Michael parked outside the city courthouse, the grand stone building towering over him. He walked inside, forcing himself to appear calm. The clerk at the front desk barely glanced at him. "I need access to legal records from a case that was scheduled about a year ago." The plaintiffs were Carter Enterprises' Richard and Elizabeth Carter. The clerk typed something on her computer, then frowned. "I'm sorry, but there are no records of a case under that name." Michael's heart sank. "Are you sure? Maybe it's under a different classification." The clerk shook her head. "No, sir. There's nothing." Michael knew what that meant. Someone had erased it. Frustrated, he turned to leave, but then he spotted a familiar figure at the end of the hall. It was Sam. Michael's blood ran cold. Why was he here? Sam hadn't mentioned anything about coming to the courthouse. Michael watched as his friend spoke in hushed tones with a man in a suit. The man handed Sam a folder. Sam nodded and walked toward the exit. Michael followed. Outside, Sam turned a corner into the parking lot. Michael called out, "Hey, Sam." Sam flinched, shoving the folder under his jacket. "Michael, what are you doing here?" "I should ask you the same thing," Michael said, narrowing his eyes. "What's in the folder?" Sam hesitated. "It's nothing. Just some paperwork for my dad." Michael didn't buy it. "Why are you lying to me?" Sam clenched his jaw, then sighed. He pulled out the folder and handed it over. "Fine. Look for yourself." Michael flipped it open. Inside were legal documents, court transcripts, financial reports, and a witness statement. The witness? Eleanor Davis. Michael's chest tightened. "Where did you get this?" Sam exhaled. "My dad gave it to me. He worked for your parents, remember? He said if you started digging, you'd need this." Michael scanned the witness statement. Eleanor Davis had been a whistleblower. She had worked for Carter Enterprises and discovered illegal financial activity, money laundering, offshore accounts, fraudulent court settlements. She had come forward to testify in court, but she had disappeared before she could. Michael's grip tightened on the papers. "She was going to expose my uncle." Sam nodded. "And your parents were going to back her up in court. That's why they were killed." Michael's mind raced. His parents had died before they could testify. Eleanor had vanished. And William Carter had walked away with everything. Unless Michael stopped him. His voice was steady when he spoke. "I need to find Eleanor Davis." And this time, no one was going to stop him. Michael gripped the folder tightly as he and Sam sat in the car outside the courthouse. The truth was unraveling fast. His parents had been ready to testify in court against his uncle, William Carter. Eleanor Davis, the key witness, had disappeared before she could testify. And now Michael needed to find her before it was too late. Ashley's voice crackled over the speakerphone. "I ran a search on Eleanor Davis. No current address, no social security activity in over a year. It's like she vanished off the face of the earth." Michael frowned. "Or someone made sure she did." Sam leaned forward. "She might have gone into hiding. If she was the whistleblower in the court case, she knew how dangerous William was." Michael's mind raced. If she disappeared, she must have had help. Maybe someone at the courthouse, a lawyer, a judge, a clerk, someone who knew the case was compromised. Ashley hummed. "I might have something. One of the lawyers listed in the files is still practicing, David Holloway. He was assigned as Eleanor's public defender." Michael sat up. "Where is he now?" Ashley typed quickly. "Still in town. His office is a few blocks from the courthouse." Michael turned the key in the ignition. "Then let's go." David Holloway's office was tucked between a coffee shop and a law firm, a small glass-fronted building that had seen better days. Michael and Sam stepped inside. The receptionist barely looked up. Michael approached the desk. "We need to speak with Mr. Holloway. It's about an old court case, Eleanor Davis." At the name, the receptionist's face paled. Hold on." She disappeared through a door. Michael exchanged a glance with Sam. Moments later, a tired-looking man in his late 40s appeared. His suit was wrinkled, his tie loose. His wary eyes studied them. "You mentioned Eleanor Davis?" Michael nodded. "We need to find her." Holloway exhaled sharply. "You and me both." He gestured to his office. "Come in." Inside, stacks of legal documents covered every surface. Holloway sat behind his cluttered desk, rubbing his temples. "I defended Eleanor when she came forward with evidence against Carter Enterprises," he said. "She was terrified. She had seen financial records, offshore accounts, proof that William Carter was laundering money through his company. She agreed to testify in court." Michael leaned forward. "What happened?" Holloway's jaw tightened. "A week before the court hearing, she disappeared. No warning. No goodbye. Just gone." Michael's stomach twisted. "You think she was kidnapped?" Holloway shook his head. "If she had been, we would have heard something. A ransom. A body. But nothing." He sighed. "I think someone warned her." told her to run. Michael frowned. Who? Holloway hesitated, then reached into a drawer. He pulled out an old business card and slid it across the desk. Michael picked it up. The name read, Chief Inspector Robert Lawson, Federal Court Investigations. Sam raised an eyebrow. A federal agent? Holloway nodded. Lawson was investigating Carter Enterprises for fraud. He believed Eleanor was in danger. The day before she vanished, he came to me and told me to drop the case. Michael clenched his fists. Where is Lawson now? Holloway exhaled. Retired. He runs a security firm on the outskirts of town. Michael pocketed the card. Then, that's where we're going next. Eleanor Davis was out there. She had the answers. And Michael was going to find her before his uncle did. Michael and Sam drove in tense silence toward the outskirts of town. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the road. The card in Michael's pocket felt heavier than it should. Chief Inspector Robert Lawson, Federal Court Investigations. If anyone knew what had happened to Eleanor Davis, it was him. Sam broke the silence. Do you really think this guy will help us? Michael gripped the steering wheel. If he warned Eleanor to run, that means he was on her side. And if he was investigating my uncle, he must have known how dangerous William really was. After another 15 minutes, they pulled up to a small, nondescript building with a faded sign, Lawson Security and Investigations. The parking lot was empty except for one car. Michael and Sam exchanged a look before stepping inside. The office was dimly lit. A desk sat in the center, cluttered with old files and a coffee cup that had long since gone cold. Behind the desk, an older man with graying hair and sharp blue eyes looked up. He had the hardened expression of someone who had seen too much. Robert Lawson? Michael asked. The man studied them for a long moment before nodding. Depends on who's asking. Michael stepped forward. My name is Michael Carter. My parents, Richard and Elizabeth Carter, were killed a year ago. They were supposed to testify in court against William Carter. Lawson's eyes darkened. I remember the case. Michael pulled out the court records he had taken from Sam. Eleanor Davis was a key witness. She disappeared before she could testify. I need to find her. Lawson sighed, rubbing his temples. I warned Eleanor to leave because she was marked. William Carter doesn't leave loose ends. I couldn't protect her within the system, so I helped her disappear. Michael's pulse quickened. She's alive? Lawson hesitated, then nodded. Last I heard, yes, but I don't know where she is now. Michael pressed on. Why were my parents involved in the case? Why would they risk everything to stand against William? Lawson leaned back, folding his arms. Because they found out what William was doing. Money laundering, fraud, and worse, bribing federal judges. Your parents planned to expose him in court alongside Eleanor. But someone got to them first. Michael swallowed hard. Who? Lawson's jaw tightened. I don't have proof, but I believe someone inside the court system, a high-ranking judge, was working with William. Your parents' court hearing was supposed to be a turning point. If they had testified, the whole operation would have collapsed. Sam ran a hand through his hair. So William had them killed. Lawson nodded grimly. And Eleanor ran before she was next. Michael's mind raced. His uncle's corruption ran deeper than he had imagined. Judges, witnesses, money laundering. This wasn't just about family inheritance anymore. This was a full-scale conspiracy. Do you have any leads on Eleanor? Michael asked. Lawson hesitated, then opened a locked drawer. He pulled out an envelope and handed it to Michael. A few months ago, she sent this to me. No return address. Just a message. Michael carefully unfolded the letter. The words were hastily written. They found me. I have proof. Meet me where justice was stolen. Michael's breath caught. What does that mean? Lawson's expression was grim. I think she's talking about the courthouse. Michael's grip tightened on the paper. If Eleanor had evidence that could take down William Carter, she was in more danger than ever, and he was running out of time to find her. Michael sat in the passenger seat, gripping Eleanor's letter as Sam drove back toward the city. The words echoed in his mind. They found me. I have proof. Meet me where justice was stolen. The courthouse. Sam tapped his fingers anxiously against the steering wheel. Are we really going back there? If William has people inside the court system, walking in blind could be suicide. Michael exhaled sharply. We don't have a choice. If Eleanor hid something there, it could be the proof we need to take him down. They parked a block away from the courthouse, avoiding the main lot. The building loomed ahead, its stone facade cold and imposing under the streetlights. Most of the offices would be closed this late, but a few lights still flickered inside. Michael scanned the entrance. We can't just walk in the front door. Sam smirked. Good thing I know a guy. He pulled out his phone and dialed. After a few rings, someone picked up. Yeah, it's me. You still working night security at the court building? I need a favor. 10 minutes later, Michael and Sam slipped through a side entrance, guided by Sam's connection Tom, a security guard. Who owed him a favor? 15 minutes, Tom whispered as he led them inside. If anyone catches you, I don't know you. Michael nodded. Where are the old court records stored? Basement level, Tom said. But it's locked up tight. Michael exchanged a glance with Sam. We'll figure it out. As Tom disappeared, they crept down a narrow staircase. The basement smelled of dust and old paper. Rows of filing cabinets stretched before them, illuminated only by emergency lights. Michael scanned the room. If Eleanor had hidden proof, where would she put it? Sam checked the old court transcripts on a nearby shelf. There's nothing recent here, just cases from decades ago. Michael's gaze landed on the judge's bench stored in the corner. It was an old wooden structure, removed when the courtroom had been renovated last year. Meet me where justice was stolen. Michael's pulse quickened. He walked over and ran his hands along the base of the bench. His fingers brushed against a small metal panel. There's something here, he whispered. Sam knelt beside him. A hidden compartment. Michael pried it open, revealing a small envelope taped inside. He carefully pulled it out and unfolded the papers. Inside, his stomach dropped. It was a ledger detailed records of illegal transactions, offshore accounts, and bribes. Names were listed, including judges, prosecutors, and law enforcement officials. At the top of the list, William Carter. Sam let out a low whistle. This is it. This is what Eleanor was hiding. Michael flipped to the last page. A handwritten note was scrawled at the bottom. If I disappear, bring this to Robert Lawson. He knows what to do. Michael's hands clenched. She knew they were coming for her. Footsteps echoed from the hallway above. Michael and Sam froze. A voice called out, I know you're down there. Michael's blood ran cold. It was William Carter. They had been caught. Michael's grip tightened on the ledger. William Carter's voice echoed down the basement hallway, smooth and confident. I know you're down there, he repeated, his footsteps slow and deliberate. You really think I wouldn't have someone watching this place? Michael's mind raced. The only exit was the staircase, but William was blocking it. They were trapped. Sam cursed under his breath. What now? Michael's eyes darted around the basement. The rows of court records, the old furniture, the judge's bench, nothing useful. Then he spotted a maintenance door in the corner. He motioned to Sam. That way. They moved fast, but William must have heard them. His voice turned sharp. You don't want to run from me, Michael. Michael ignored him, yanking open the maintenance door. Inside was a narrow tunnel, likely leading to another part of the courthouse. He and Sam slipped through and shut the door behind them. They ran through the dark passage, the air thick with dust. The walls vibrated as William's men kicked open the basement door. Michael's heart pounded. He gripped the ledger tightly, knowing it was their only chance to expose the truth. Sam whispered, Where does this lead? Michael had no idea, but forward was the only option. The tunnel opened into another room, a storage area filled with old court documents. Michael recognized it from his childhood. His father had once brought him here during a visit to the courthouse. But there was no time for nostalgia. Behind them, heavy footsteps approached. Sam scanned the room. We need a way out. Michael spotted a vent above one of the shelves. Help me up. Sam crouched, and Michael climbed onto his back, pushing open the vent cover. He pulled himself inside just as Sam followed. The space was tight, forcing them to crawl. They moved quickly, the metal groaning beneath them. Below, voices shouted orders. William's men were searching the storage room. Then bang! A gunshot rang out, and the vent shook violently. They're shooting at us? Sam hissed. Michael didn't answer. He kept crawling, pushing forward until the vent sloped downward. He could see a faint light ahead. They reached the end and kicked open the cover. It dropped them into a dimly lit hallway, the employee wing of the courthouse. Sam groaned. I think I broke something. Michael pulled him to his feet. We have to keep moving. They rushed through the hallway, heading toward the main exit. The security desk was empty. The night shift guards were either bribed or smart enough to stay out of William Carter's way. As they neared the exit, a shadow stepped into their path. William. His suit was immaculate, his expression calm, as if he had expected this. His men flanked him, blocking their escape. Michael's stomach twisted, but he kept his face neutral. You really don't want this getting out, do you? William smiled. Michael, you don't understand what you're holding. That ledger isn't just about me. There are powerful people involved. Judges, senators, CEOs. If you take this to court, you're declaring war on an empire. Michael didn't flinch. Then I guess I'll see you in court. William's smile faded. He motioned to his men. Take it from him. Sam tensed. We are so screwed. Michael clutched the ledger and braced himself. There was no running now. Michael's pulse pounded as William's men closed in. There was no way out. No more hiding. The ledger, the only proof of his uncle's crimes, was clutched in his hands. William took a slow step forward. You're not thinking clearly, Michael. Hand it over, and this all ends. Michael tightened his grip. You mean like it ended for my parents? A flicker of irritation crossed William's face, but he quickly masked it with a smirk. Your parents made a mistake. They thought the court system would protect them. It didn't, and it won't protect you either. Sam leaned in, whispering, we need a distraction. Michael's mind raced. Then he saw at the fire alarm panel on the wall, just a few feet behind William's men. He met Sam's eyes and gave a slight nod. Sam didn't hesitate. With one swift motion, he grabbed a nearby trash can and hurled it at the alarm. The glass shattered, and an ear-piercing siren filled the courthouse. Chaos erupted. Red emergency lights flashed as the sprinkler system activated, dousing the hall in water. William cursed, momentarily distracted as his men scrambled. Michael didn't wait. He bolted. He and Sam sprinted through the soaked hallway, slipping past confused security guards and panicked staff. Michael clutched the ledger to his chest as they pushed through the main exit doors and into the cold night air. The sound of sirens in the distance sent a wave of relief through him. The fire alarm had triggered an emergency response. That meant police would arrive soon. But they weren't safe yet. Sam gasped, where now? Michael didn't slow down. To Lawson. He's the only one who can make sure this gets to the right people. They reached Lawson's security office in record time, skidding to a stop outside the door. Michael pounded on it. The door flew open, and Robert Lawson pulled them inside. What the hell happened to you two? Michael, drenched and out of breath, shoved the ledger into his hands. We found it. The proof. Everything William Carter has done. Lawson's eyes scanned the pages, and his face darkened. Damn, this is bigger than I thought. Sam collapsed onto a chair. Tell me we didn't just risk our lives for nothing." Lawson's expression hardened. "No. This changes everything." He turned to Michael. "But this isn't over. William has people everywhere. If you take this to a local court, they'll bury it before it ever sees a judge." Michael swallowed hard. "Then what do we do?" Lawson grabbed his phone and dialed a number. "We go federal." Michael and Sam exchanged a look as Lawson spoke into the phone. "Agent Castillo? It's Lawson. I have something you'll want to see. Meet me at the federal courthouse in 1 hour." He hung up and turned to Michael. "The FBI has been investigating corruption in the court system for years. This ledger is what they need to bring William and his allies down. But we need to move fast." Michael nodded, determination burning in his chest. For the first time, he had a real chance to bring William Carter to justice. And he wasn't going to waste it. The drive to the federal courthouse was tense. Michael sat in the back seat of Lawson's car, gripping the ledger tightly. Sam sat beside him, unusually quiet. Lawson drove with steady focus, his jaw tight. "This is it," Lawson said, eyes fixed on the road. "Once we hand this over to the feds, there's no turning back." Michael exhaled slowly. "Good. I don't want to turn back." Lawson nodded. "Agent Castillo is waiting for us. He's one of the few people I trust. But we have to be careful. William has connections. If he finds out what we're doing, he'll try to stop us before we step into that courtroom." Michael didn't doubt it. His uncle had silenced his parents and made Eleanor Davis disappear. He wouldn't hesitate to do the same to him. As they neared the courthouse, Sam shifted uncomfortably. What if Castillo is compromised? Lawson shot him a sharp look through the rearview mirror. "He's clean. If he weren't, I'd be dead already." That wasn't exactly reassuring. They parked a block away and approached the courthouse cautiously. The massive stone building loomed ahead, bathed in the glow of streetlights. A tall man in a dark suit stood near the steps, hands in his pockets. As they neared, he turned to face them. "Agent Castillo." "Lawson," Castillo said, nodding. Then his sharp gaze shifted to Michael. "You must be the Carter kid." Michael squared his shoulders. "I have proof." My uncle Castillo held up a hand. "Not here. Inside." Michael followed him into the courthouse, his heart pounding. The halls were eerily quiet at this hour. They entered a secured briefing room, where Castillo shut the door and turned to them. "Show me." Michael slid the ledger across the table. Castillo flipped through it, his expression darkening. "This is damning evidence. Offshore accounts, bribery, fraudulent court settlements. William Carter is going away for a long time." Michael felt a flicker of relief, but it vanished when Castillo's expression hardened. "You realize what this means, don't you?" he said. "This isn't just about your uncle. There are judges, politicians, even federal prosecutors on these lists. This could shake the entire court system." Michael nodded. "That's the point." Castillo exhaled. "We need to move carefully. If we make the wrong step, this case disappears. I'll need a federal court order to seize assets and make arrests." Sam leaned forward. "How long will that take?" "Hours. Maybe a day." Castillo's expression darkened. "But William won't wait that long. He'll know something's up soon." Lawson crossed his arms. "Then we protect Michael until the court hearing is set." Michael's stomach tightened. He wasn't naive. William wouldn't sit back and watch this unfold. He would act. The question was when. As Castillo made calls to set things in motion, Michael stepped into the hallway, taking a deep breath. Sam joined him, rubbing his temples. "I have a bad feeling about this." Michael sighed. "Me too." Before Sam could respond, the front doors of the courthouse burst open. Michael turned just in time to see a group of men in dark suits storm inside. His heart stopped. William had found them. Michael barely had time to react before William's men flooded into the courthouse. Their footsteps echoed down the marble halls, their movements precise. This wasn't a last-minute act of desperation. This was planned. Sam cursed under his breath. We are so screwed. Michael's mind raced. They were in a federal courthouse, a place of law and justice. But right now, none of that mattered. If William wanted to silence them, he wouldn't care about legal consequences. Lawson stepped in front of Michael, his hand hovering near his concealed firearm. Stay behind me, he muttered. Castillo emerged from the briefing room, his phone still in hand. His face hardened when he saw the intruders. You really think storming a federal court building is a good idea? William stepped forward from the group, adjusting his suit like this was just another business meeting. His gaze landed on Michael. I warned you, he said smoothly. You should have listened. Michael clenched his fists. And let you get away with everything? Not a chance. William sighed. You're young. You don't understand how power works. The court system is just a game, and I've been playing it longer than you've been alive. His eyes flicked to Castillo. Tell me, Agent, do you really think your little investigation will change anything? One call from the right people, and this entire case disappears. Castillo smirked. Is that so? He turned his phone around, showing the screen. A live video feed was streaming. William's entire confession had been broadcasted directly to federal prosecutors. William's face finally faltered. You just confessed to corruption inside a federal courthouse, Castillo said, sliding his badge from his pocket. That's not a game, Carter. That's a felony. For the first time, William's confidence cracked. His men shifted uneasily, realizing they were now on the wrong side of a very public disaster. Then William did something unexpected. He laughed. Michael stiffened. What's so funny? William gave him a pitying look. You think this is over? He gestured around. This is bigger than me. You might take me down, but the system? It'll keep going. Michael met his gaze. Not if I can help it. At that moment, a swarm of federal agents stormed into the court building, their weapons drawn. Castillo stepped forward. William Carter, you are under arrest for conspiracy, bribery, obstruction of justice, and numerous federal crimes. For the first time, William looked truly furious. You don't know what you're doing. Castillo nodded to his agents. Get him out of my courthouse. The agents cuffed William as his men surrendered one by one. Michael watched as his uncle, so smug, so untouchable, was led out in disgrace. It was over. Hours later, Michael sat in the now empty briefing room. The ledger had been turned over to federal prosecutors. The case was moving forward. Sam leaned back in his chair. We actually did it. Lawson nodded. It'll take time, but with this evidence, a federal court hearing will tear apart the network William built. Michael exhaled, feeling the weight of it all. His parents had died fighting for justice. And now, their fight was finally being won. Castillo entered, handing Michael an official document. The case is being scheduled. You'll be testifying in court soon. Michael took the paper, gripping it tightly. He wasn't scared. For the first time in a long time, he was ready. Justice was coming. And this time, the court would do its job. Justice isn't always easy, but it's worth the fight. Michael's journey proves that the truth can't stay buried forever, even when powerful people try to hide it. What would you do if you uncovered a secret this big? Let us know in the comments where in the world are you watching from. And if you love thrilling stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a twist.